My name is Uzra Zeya, and I'm the President and CEO of Human Rights First. It is my great honor to present the 2024 Roger N. Baldwin Medal of Liberty to an extraordinary lawyer and climate rights activist from Vietnam, Dang Dinh Bach. 4 years ago this month, Bach was unjustly arrested and imprisoned for his vital work. He continues to be arbitrarily detained in Vietnam to this day. His wife, Thao, is accepting this award on his behalf. The Baldwin Medal of Liberty is awarded to courageous human rights advocates in honor of Roger N. Baldwin, principal founder of both the American Civil Liberties Union, or ACLU, and the International League for Human Rights. Established in 1998, the award is presented in alternating years by Human Rights First for advocates outside the United States and the ACLU for advocates inside the United States. This year, we are proud to present the award to Bach, who was chosen as the winner by an independent jury in recognition of his lifetime commitment to protecting communities in Vietnam from the harmful effects of pollution and the climate crisis, a commitment that has come at great personal cost. Rather than applaud his vital work, the Vietnamese government arrested Bach in June 2021 and sentenced him to 5 years in prison on spurious charges of tax evasion. This tactic is commonly employed by the authorities to criminalize environmental defenders for their legitimate and peaceful activities to combat climate change. In recent years, Vietnam has seen a wave of such arrests and prosecutions against environmental advocates. UN experts have called these attacks part of a wider crackdown on environmental rights defenders and against civic space in Vietnam. Bach is one of several individuals who have been targeted with judicial harassment and politically motivated charges after advocating for a just transition away from coal-based energy. Bach has been an instrumental leader in advancing environmental protections in Vietnam. He's the co-founder and former executive director of the Law and Policy of Sustainable Development Research Center, or LPSD, a public interest law firm advising communities on cases of environmental harm, including industrial pollution, involuntary displacement due to hydropower construction, and pollution from coal plants. In addition to leading LPSD, Bach helped launch a review of the country's environmental protection law, supported the successful adoption of Vietnam's first legislation limiting production and import of plastics, and led a campaign to reduce Vietnam's reliance on coal. LPSD has since been shut down by the authorities after Bach's arrest. Bach's detention has been marked by rampant human rights violations. Taken from his home when his newborn son was just 2 weeks old, the authorities arrested him without a warrant. He was held in pretrial detention for 7 months, where he was kept incommunicado with limited access to his lawyers or family members. UN experts have also condemned the harsh conditions of his detention, noting the reports that he has been attacked and beaten while in prison. The UN Working Group on Arbitrary Detention has concluded that Bach's imprisonment is arbitrary and in violation of international law and called for his immediate release. As a former US official responsible for human rights under the previous administration, I too pressed Vietnamese officials to release Bach and other unjustly imprisoned environmental defenders. Bach himself has engaged in several hunger strikes to protest his conviction and Vietnam's abuse of ambiguous tax laws to silence human rights and environmental defenders. As we present Bach with this award and mark the somber 4-year anniversary of his arrest, we urgently call on Vietnamese authorities to immediately release Bach from his unjust imprisonment and urge the international community to support his life's work, leading Vietnam into a just and sustainable energy transition. Bach's relentless advocacy has been vital to protecting communities vulnerable to the climate crisis in Vietnam, and to the fundamental right to a healthy environment for all people. Along with my colleagues at Human Rights First, we'd like to express our deep gratitude to Bach's indomitable wife, Chun Fung Thao, who is accepting this award on his behalf.
We are Trần Phương Thảo and Tuệ Nguyen, wife and son of the imprisoned environmental lawyer and human rights defender Dang Dinh Bach. My husband Bach asked me to pass on his thank message on this great occasion. It's with a profound sense of humility that I accept this wonderful award, also on behalf of all the voices that were not heard, all the faces that were not seen, all those who left this world without seeing our right restored. And now I would like to join my husband to express gratitude for this recognition of Bach's life and work. The Baldwin Award represents the utmost importance of human rights and rule of law in building a just and sustainable world. Values my husband keeps fighting for, whether outside or inside a prison. The Baldwin Award sends a message to the environmental activists and their families that their dedication and sacrifice are worthy of respect, and that they are never alone. They will never be forgotten by the world. Thanks go to my friends and colleagues who have been always by my side in the most difficult times. When I have gone through administrative and judicial harassment in my own country. Never can I forget early that morning, just 1 year after our marriage, when I just gave birth to our first child 2 weeks before. The police stormed our small apartment, turned everything upside down, and took Bach away. We were in shock. In my native at that time, I did not understand why a person would dress for protecting the environment and helping people. Why did my husband's efforts to save the environment lead to so much pain and misery? I live in extreme confusion and anxiety because it felt like my husband was suddenly kidnapped. We were completely without contact, without news, without phone calls, without letter. Much later, I found out that my husband was transferred from one prison to another without my knowledge. His old parents and I were paralyzed because none of us could understand what happened and predict the duration of this arbitrary detention. As his wife, I even was not allowed to attend his 2 court hearings. It was an endless waiting time. Finally, after 16 months, I was able to see my husband the first time after he was taken to a prison 450 kilometers away from home, and he has been there ever since. For me, since then, my entire life has revolved around bringing the necessary food supplies to my husband, waiting for a phone call from him every month, and resistantly fighting against the repression and mistreatment in prison to protect my husband's life. It's like a never-ending nightmare. Our baby, now 4 years old, has never met his father, and like me, he doesn't exist in Hanoi, simply because the papers about home were taken away and we cannot register our residency. Thirst, no passport, no place in kindergarten. We have to live in constant fear without knowing what to happen the next minute. Yes, for the past 4 years, the solidarity and support from the international community, which have us keep faith in human rights values and the rule of law. My husband has never stopped his determination to demand justice. The prison jails of Bach and other environmental activists in Vietnam raised many questions on the nature of the project for sustainable development and green growth, or rule of law, judicial reform, public administration, transparency in their country, where human rights dialogue are only to be found on papers. We need to call on global leaders to give serious consideration to transparency, accountability, and access to justice as essential to the succeed of all projects to help the people of Vietnam. Thank you for your presence, and let's go on a campaign for Bach's freedom and what he considered his life mission. For building a state of law, for saving and protecting environment, Vietnam needs to ensure strict enforcement of the law and respect human rights.